really unfortunate because I wish you could see the wonderful face of my guest, author and educator, Connie. How do you pronounce your last name? Let's get it right, Connie.
It's Biewald. I was very happy when Justin Bieber got famous because then people learned how to pronounce my name.
Okay, wonderful. Well, so friends, what we're going to do is we're going to do this a little old school. You will just sadly see me on the camera, but you should be hearing Connie on the phone, and that's how we're going to do it because we want to get this content to you, and we told you we would do it. So here we are, barring technology. So Connie, I would just love if you could start by giving a bit of a brief intro into your background as an author and an educator.
Okay, thanks. Well, I am a school librarian / growth education teacher, and I've been doing that work for about 30-something years. And I think what's most relevant here is the way that growth ed is an overarching word that includes sex ed and standing up for yourself and all kinds of life, social, emotional, health, wellness topics. And it's been just really interesting having done that for so long because I've grown from being the cool young teacher to the parent-aged teacher to now I'm kind of like the grandmother-aged teacher. And I've seen lots of changes in what kids are dealing with over the years.
Yeah. Well, so I was really interested because, so you and I met in Boston at a really great event with AMAZE and Planned Parenthood, and that was wonderful. I know you know my colleague Maura as well. And when we were emailing about doing this broadcast, and again, I just want to encourage anybody who's joining, just to recap, sadly, we couldn't get the technology gods were against us and we couldn't get Connie on the side-by-side interview, but if you have comments for her or questions, we're talking about pornography, please drop your comments and I can get her to answer them. But so Connie, you were saying that your students are buzzing a lot about the topic of pornography. I mean, I think it's always, people are always buzzing about it, but what are kids talking about these days? And like, do you have a sense of where they are accessing it?
Yes, I work with 10-year-olds to 14-year-olds primarily, and it's been, it's interesting, just kids have seen it. I mean, a lot of kids have seen it. A lot of 10-year-olds have seen it. I forget what the statistic is, but I just know from my students, a lot of them have seen it. And for a lot of them, it's accidental or they're just curious and they type in sex, and then the things that come up are so far beyond whatever they could have imagined or wanted to see. And so I'm struck by kids just bringing it up and not even knowing how to really describe what they've seen. Because some of them will think that like a little pop-up ad about find singles in your area, like some of them will think that is pornography at first, and then kids find all kinds of other things too. And I think it's really disturbing, and I think the most important thing for them is to have a place to talk about it and to not be afraid to say, I saw this weird thing. I saw this weird thing online and I really didn't know what to make of it.
Yeah, well, so, I think that's one of the tricky things about porn too, because it's such a wide spectrum of what a kid can see, right? So do you have a sense, in 10 to 14-year-olds, I mean, that's really kind of in our like sweet spot for the kids that we're reaching with our content, but do you have a sense that your students understand the sort of fantasy versus reality nature of pornography?
I don't think they have, especially the younger kids. I think that's what's so worrisome about it. I think the younger kids just have no context, really, unless we've given it to them somehow. And I love, first of all, I could say I love the AMAZE video about porn because I think it's the perfect thing. It's not too much for anybody. I think it's perfect for 5th grade, probably even 4th grade. And it really provides like a platform almost so that when the kids do run across it, they have somewhere in their brain like, oh, this is what that was talking about. And then they can talk about it with an adult or just have some kind of frame for it. Because I think what's the most scary thing about it for kids is they see it and then they just don't know what to do. And it just stays in their head and they don't talk about it.
Right.
Whereas if they know, oh, this thing exists, here's what it is, oh, I should talk about it. And one of the things that's been most helpful for me is we do a lot of media deconstructing, say, starting with like toy ads, ads for toys. And wow, how does that toy look on TV compared to how it really is when you get it? And talking about disappointments and differences and how does TV and media, amp it up. Or even something like the, Photoshop videos about how ads Photoshop bodies and faces and that sort of thing. And if you have that as a background, then to talk about porn not being real is a lot easier, because it's like that hamburger ad. Like, that's not a real hamburger. They've used whatever to make it look better or different. I mean, you could
right.
to make it look unreal or so. Yeah. So I find having that context really helps a lot.
Yes. And there's one thing that I picked up, and it was a tip I picked up from another educator named Brad Troger, who does a lot of work with AMAZE. And his comment was related, or his example was related to porn. So I wanted to bring it up on this broadcast because I thought it was such a good tip. But, he said to me, or I heard him say, one tricky thing with parents is if a kid asks about something, then you immediately think, oh my God, they're doing it, or they're, and that's not the case. So they might ask about porn or whatever, because they've heard the term and they just don't know what it is, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're actually accessing it. So, I don't know if that's something you've communicated with the parents, in your community or not.
Yes, definitely. And I mean, that goes along with like all kinds of questions, hard questions about sex or anything complicated for kids is, try to find out what they know first. Why are you asking this? Or, and then did that answer your question? You answer it in stages, kind of, did that answer your question? And then see what they ask, to make you talk more.
Yeah, actually, that's the perfect segue, because I wanted to, as I said at the beginning, I think, porn especially, it's a topic that just freaks parents out. So I would love, you had just mentioned, just as a general communication tip, kind of like figuring out what kids are asking and where they're at. But what are some really simple ways that parents can start a conversation about porn with their kids, and what should you cover?
That's a good question. You could ask kids, have you ever seen anything online or stumbled across anything online that you wonder about? Also, it comes up all the time in hyper-sexualized society that there's plenty of opportunities to talk with kids about, images that push sex. I mean, I think I wouldn't even really start with porn. I think I'd start with like talking about it all the way along with with ads. Kids always come back after the Super Bowl, for example, or any big TV event, and they're always talking about the ads. So I feel like as a parent, just sitting there talking about ads, like, what do you think about that? Like, why, you like say a woman, a scantily dressed woman is there in some ad, and you can't even tell what the ad is for. That's a conversation to have with kids. Why do you think they're doing that? So I just feel like it's an ongoing conversation. Like, porn should be part of already have been talking to kids about things, and then it won't catch us by such surprise, later on if kids are used to analyzing media.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a brilliant suggestion too, because one, hypersexualized media is everywhere, and then two, we talk a lot at AMAZE about, and I'm sure you do in your work as well, about the importance of teachable moments, and I mean, those moments you will be able to have, as you said, have those conversations often, because like the fodder for it is everywhere. So I really love that. There's one last thing I did want to, and really, Connie, I appreciate your flexibility today in the wake of our tech woes, but there's one thing I wanted to ask you about, and it's whether you feel like about media or about porn or whatever. Has that translated into conversations about healthy versus unhealthy relationships?
Absolutely, and I think that's it's a good opportunity for that, to have that happen and talk about like what's the difference between, why is it or isn't it representative of a healthy relationship, and we definitely talk about that all the time. I mean, that's the foundation, I think, that we want to be talking about with kids, is what is a healthy relationship, and what is, the wonderfulness of sexuality. And I think that's really the key. Like when we do that, then the other stuff is rendered a little less powerful, or a lot less powerful. I was thinking of an example, and then I just lost it. I don't know. Yeah, I feel like kids know, kids. I don't know. I lost it. I had a really good example, but
oh, no worries.
It'll come back to me.
No worries. Yeah, I think it's. I think it's, again, like it's in a way it's great that there are these everyday touch points that one could have to talk about it, and I just think especially given what's happening in the news, given what's happening kind of everywhere, that this ability to equip kids with the understanding that they deserve to have a healthy relationship, and one that is grounded in respect and consent, and you can talk about all, like, any number of topics just within like a little frame, of seeing one image or something. Yeah,
that's what I wanted to say. I feel I'm always taken aback. Like in recent years, I feel like when kids start in the puberty / sex ed unit, and I ask them for questions, like what questions do they have, and they put them in a question box. I'm always, how many kids right away want to know, like, what is rape? And it's like I do not want to start talking about that right away, and I don't usually put it as, we'll get to that, we'll put it aside. But I asked that when I went to a workshop, people were saying, like, what are the hard, the instructor was saying, what are the hard questions that you get that you don't really, know how to deal with, or you're not sure. And I know how to explain rape, but what I don't know how to deal with is how that's the first thing that comes up for so many kids. And they made the point that that when we are not talking about healthy sexuality, which we do not do enough of in our culture, that's the thing that kids are getting when the kind of a weird connection between that's sexuality, rape, that's this thing, that's sex that we're not supposed to know about or talk about, and then they go right to it because that's what they know. And I feel like there's parallels with porn too. It's like, if that's what, and just not even porn, but like I was saying before, highly sexualized ads. When the kids think that's sex, and that's what sex is all about, that's the problem. So if we're talking to them in a healthy ways, which AMAZE does so much of, it's so helpful at that. And there are other resources too. There's lots of good stuff. Although AMAZE is excellent. Then, and we're not afraid to have those conversations from the time kids are little. Then we have a context for talking about porn, and it's not so scary or hard.
Yeah, that is like super fascinating and also like rather sobering. Well, just to close out, since we were talking about resources, I don't know if I could put you on the spot and just ask you if you have one or two favorite other resources that you love using with your students. I really do love AMAZE. Like after those Roe v. Harris books, which were the first revolutionary resource for my teaching, AMAZE was the next. But I also love, it's called culturereframed.org. Okay. And it's perfect for parents because it's free, and it was started by a woman named Gail Dines, who has researched pornography for years. In fact, I went to a workshop given by her probably back in the 80s, and it's great because it will take parents through, and it's quick, not a huge time commitment, kind of module by module about how to talk with kids about porn, but also sexuality in general, from tweens to older kids, and what to do if your kid is one of the kids that has ended up seeing a lot of pornography before you know about it, and what do you do then?
It's really good. So I would recommend that.
That's fabulous. I haven't heard of that one, so that's wonderful. And I will link that and the different videos and some other ones that just came to mind. I'll link them up in the comments after we close. But Connie, thank you again for your patience this afternoon as we were trying to work through the tech stuff and then being flexible to come on the phone like on the fly. I really appreciate it and appreciate your wisdom and contributions here today.
Well, thank you. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks. Take care.
Okay, bye.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this on the fly AMAZE Live. And I'm sorry you didn't get to see Connie's face on the side-by-side, but I will share links to anything that we've talked about in the comments. And if you have questions for Connie that you want me to follow up with her on, please drop them in the comments. I know a lot of you come to the broadcast later. So we look forward to hearing from you. Till next time. Bye.